and then, without warning, the movement stopped. Nanda blinked, disoriented. They were no longer in the tunnel. The air around them had returned to normal, cool and still, with the faint scent of incense hanging in the background. They were standing in a vast, open temple, its stone walls looming high above them, the floor beneath their feet cold and smooth. The room felt ancient, but not with the weight of time, more like it had been forgotten, waiting for something to fill it. At the center of the space, resting on an altar, was the Grail. It wasn't bathed in an ethereal glow, nor surrounded by a mystic aura. It simply was, the soft gleam of its golden surface catching the muted light of the room. The energy in the air wasn't pulsing or heavy. It was quietly present, as if the Grail itself was merely one part of the larger, ever-waiting silence that surrounded them. Nanda, her senses heightened, felt a strange pull towards the Grail, a connection that transcended the physical realm, a resonance with the very essence of time itself. She cautiously approached the altar, her paws treading lightly on the smooth floor, her eyes fixed on the chalice, its glow beckoning her closer, promising untold power and the potential to reshape destiny. As she drew near, the Grail's light intensified, bathing the temple in a golden radiance, its warmth contrasting with the cool, damp air of the underwater city. Images swirled within the chalice, visions of past, present, and future, a kaleidoscope of moments frozen in time, a glimpse into the infinite possibilities that lay within the Grail's power. Nanda felt a wave of dizziness wash over her, the visions blurring into a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow, a symphony of colors and emotions that threatened to overwhelm her senses. But she pressed on, her curiosity and determination outweighing her apprehension. She had come too far, faced too many challenges, to turn back now. The Grail, the key to unlocking the mysteries of time, the solution to the kingdom's turmoil, was within her grasp. With a trembling paw, she reached out and touched the chalice, its surface surprisingly warm and smooth beneath her touch. A jolt of energy surged through her, a wave of power that made her fur stand on end and her heart pound like a drum. The visions within the Grail sharpened, revealing a tapestry of moments woven together by the threads of time, a glimpse into the intricate web of cause and effect that shaped the past, present, and future. Nanda saw the king, his face etched with worry, his brow furrowed with the weight of responsibility for his kingdom, which teetered on the brink of chaos. She saw Lancelot, his heart heavy with grief for his fallen leader, his loyalty unwavering, his determination to protect the realm burning bright within his noble spirit. And she saw herself, a small cat caught in the currents of time, a creature of destiny entrusted with a power beyond her comprehension, a power that could alter the course of history and reshape the very fabric of reality. A wave of understanding washed over her, a sudden clarity about the Grail's true nature and the immense responsibility it bestowed upon her. It was not merely a relic, a symbol of faith and hope. It was a conduit to the very fabric of time, a key to unlocking the mysteries of existence, a power that could shape destinies and alter the course of history. But with this power came a heavy burden, the knowledge that her choices, her actions, could have far-reaching consequences, rippling through time and altering the very fabric of reality. Nanda closed her eyes, focusing on the images swirling within the Grail, seeking the moment, the event that could shift the course of history, that could restore balance to the world and bring peace to the troubled kingdom. And then, she saw it, the king's assassination, the moment of violence that plunged the kingdom into darkness, the spark that ignited the flames of chaos and despair. With a surge of determination, she focused her will, channeling the Grail's power, her mind reaching back through time, seeking to alter the course of events, to prevent the tragedy that had shattered the kingdom's peace. She imagined the scene unfolding before her, the assassin's blade raised, the king's unsuspecting back turned, the moment of vulnerability hanging heavy in the air. The temple around her shimmered and distorted, the air crackling with temporal energy as Nanda's consciousness reached through the veil of time, her will imposing itself on the past, seeking to rewrite the moment of the king's demise. She could feel the resistance of time itself, the push and pull of the temporal currents as she attempted to alter the course of history. But as she focused her power, a wave of dizziness washed over her, and a sense of disorientation clouded her mind. The temporal energy felt unstable, chaotic, resisting her attempts to control it. A voice whispered in her ear, warning her of the dangers of tampering with the past, reminding her of the delicate balance of cause and effect, the intricate web of interconnected events that shape the tapestry of time. Nanda gritted her teeth, pushing aside the doubts and the growing sense of unease. She would not be deterred. She would harness the Grail's power and alter the course of history, even if it meant defying the very laws of time and risking the unforeseen consequences. She poured all her concentration into the task, her mind fixed on the moment of the assassination, her paw gripping the Grail, its power surging through her, a torrent of energy that threatened to overwhelm her. The temple pulsed with light, the air thrumming with temporal energy, as Nanda reached through time, her consciousness merging with the past, her will imposing itself on the course of history. And then everything went black. Nanda opened her eyes, her vision still blurred by the residual effects of the temporal anomaly. She found herself standing in the same spot, the Grail still held in her paw, but the temple around her had changed. The air was no longer filled with the ethereal glow of the Grail, but with a palpable sense of tension and unease. She looked around, her heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and uncertainty. The temple was no longer the grand, majestic hall she had seen before. Instead, it was a dark and foreboding place, its walls adorned with cryptic symbols and haunting murals depicting scenes of war and destruction. A sense of dread hung heavy in the air, a palpable darkness that seemed to seep into her very bones. Nanda turned to Lancelot, who stood beside her, his expression grave, his eyes filled with a mixture of concern and confusion. "What happened?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the silence that hung heavy in the air. Nanda shook her head, her mind still reeling from the experience. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I tried to change the past, to prevent the king's assassination, but—" Her voice trailed off, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and confusion. She had succeeded in altering the past, but the consequences were far more devastating than she had ever imagined. The city of Camelot, once a beacon of hope and prosperity, was now a shadow of its former self, its streets ravaged by war, and its people plagued by suffering and despair. The king, still alive, had become a tyrant, his rule marked by oppression and bloodshed. And Lancelot, once a loyal knight, had fallen into despair, his heart consumed by grief and regret. Nanda felt a wave of guilt wash over her, her heart heavy with the weight of her actions. She had tried to prevent a tragedy, but in doing so, she had unleashed a chain of events that had led to even greater suffering. She turned to Lancelot, her eyes filled with remorse. "I'm sorry, Lancelot," she said, her voice barely audible. "I tried to help, but I made a terrible mistake." Lancelot, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding, reached out and placed his hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault, Nanda," he said, his voice gentle and reassuring. "We all make mistakes. The important thing is that we learn from them." Nanda nodded, her heart heavy with regret. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, but she also knew that there was no turning back now. The past had been altered. The consequences were irreversible. She turned her gaze towards the city, its streets bustling with activity, its people going about their daily lives, unaware of the dark forces that lurked beneath the surface. A sense of despair washed over her, a feeling that she had failed, that she had made things worse. But then, a flicker of hope sparked within her. She remembered the inscription she had deciphered in the hidden chamber, the words about the importance of purity and innocence, of seeing with the eyes of wonder and acting with the hands of compassion. She turned to Lancelot, her eyes filled with a renewed determination. "We can't undo the past, Lancelot," she said, her voice firm. "But we can try to make the future better. We can use the Grail's power to heal the wounds of the past, to bring hope and light to this troubled world." Lancelot nodded, his eyes filled with a renewed sense of purpose. "You're right, Nanda," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We can't change the past, but we can shape the future. Together, we can make a difference." Nanda and Lancelot left the temple, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of hope, a determination to use the Grail's power for the betterment of the world. They faced a daunting challenge, but they were not alone. They had each other, and they had the power of the Grail, a power that could heal the wounds of the past and bring hope to a troubled world. As they walked through the city, They saw the suffering and despair that plagued its people. The streets were filled with beggars and orphans, their faces etched with pain and hardship. The air was thick with the stench of poverty and disease, a stark contrast to the once vibrant and prosperous city. Nanda and Lancelot stopped before a group of children, their faces gaunt and their eyes filled with hunger. They shared their food with the children, their compassion and kindness a beacon of hope in the midst of despair. As they continued through the city, they encountered a group of injured soldiers, their wounds untreated, their spirits broken. They used the Grail's power to heal their wounds, bringing a sense of relief and hope to their weary souls. Word of their healing powers spread quickly, and soon they were surrounded by a crowd of people, their faces filled with hope and gratitude. Nanda and Lancelot used the Grail's power to heal the sick, to feed the hungry, to bring comfort to the suffering. Their actions brought a spark of hope to the city, a glimmer of light in the darkness. The people, once filled with despair, began to regain their faith in the future, their spirits lifted by the compassion and kindness shown by the two strangers. Nanda and Lancelot continued their journey, their hearts filled with a sense of purpose, their actions bringing hope and healing to the people of the city. They used the Grail's power to rebuild the city's infrastructure, to restore its prosperity, to bring a sense of peace and harmony to its people. And as they worked, they realized that the true power of the Grail lay not in its ability to alter the past, but in its ability to inspire hope, to bring healing, to empower the people to rebuild their lives. The city was transformed, its streets bustling with activity, its people filled with hope and joy. The once desolate city was now a beacon of light, a symbol of hope and resilience. Nanda and Lancelot, their hearts filled with a sense of fulfillment, stood atop the city walls, gazing out at the vibrant city below. They had faced many challenges, overcome many obstacles, but they had succeeded in bringing hope and healing to a troubled world. They turned to each other, their eyes filled with a shared sense of accomplishment. "We did it, Lancelot," Nanda said, her voice filled with pride and gratitude. "We made a difference." Lancelot smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and affection. "Yes, we did," he replied, his voice filled with a sense of peace and contentment. "We brought hope to a troubled world, and for that, we can be proud." As they stood there, basking in the warmth of their accomplishments, a subtle shift in the atmosphere caught Nanda's attention. The air around them thrummed with a faint vibration, a familiar hum of temporal energy that sent a shiver down her spine. The world around them shimmered and distorted, the vibrant colors of the revitalized city fading into a muted haze. The solid ground beneath their paws began to ripple and dissolve, the familiar world giving way to an unstable, fluid canvas. A sense of urgency filled Nanda's heart. She had grown accustomed to the unpredictable nature of time travel, but this anomaly felt different. Its energy wilder, its pull more insistent. It was as if time itself was calling her, beckoning her towards an unknown destination. Lancelot, his hand instinctively reaching for his sword, stepped closer to Nanda, his protective instincts taking over. "What should we do?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Nanda opened her eyes, her gaze fixed on the swirling vortex that was forming before them, its depths a mesmerizing kaleidoscope of colors, its pull drawing her in, promising new adventures and unforeseen possibilities. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I think it's time for me to go." Lancelot's eyes widened with surprise and a touch of sadness. "Go," he echoed, his voice filled with concern. "But where?" Nanda met his gaze, her heart filled with gratitude for his unwavering support and friendship. "I don't know," she confessed, her voice laced with a hint of trepidation. "But I feel a pull, a sense of urgency, as if something is calling me." She reached out and gently touched his arm, her eyes filled with warmth and affection. "Thank you, Lancelot," she said, her voice soft but firm, "for everything." Lancelot, his heart heavy with the impending parting, leaned down and gently nuzzled her fur. "And thank you, Nanda," he replied, his voice filled with sincerity, "for showing me the true meaning of courage and compassion." He paused, his eyes searching hers, a silent understanding passing between them. "This is where we part ways, my friend," he said, his voice filled with a bittersweet acceptance. "Your destiny lies elsewhere, in a realm beyond my reach." With a final, heartfelt embrace, They bid each other farewell, their bond forged in shared adventures and unwavering loyalty. A bond that would transcend time and space. Nanda turned towards the swirling vortex, its iridescent light beckoning her forward. She took a deep breath, steeling her nerves, and stepped into the unknown, her heart heavy with the parting from her dear friend, but her spirit soaring with the anticipation of the journey ahead. As the vortex enveloped her, she cast one last glance at Lancelot, his figure fading into the swirling colors, his voice echoing in her mind, a final farewell that would forever remain etched in her heart. May your path lead you to where you truly belong, Nanda, he whispered, his voice a comforting presence in the chaotic whirlwind. And may we meet again someday in a realm beyond time and space. Nanda closed her eyes, bracing herself for the disorienting rush of temporal displacement, the familiar sensation of being untethered from reality, adrift in the currents of time. But this time, the sensation was different. The swirling colors intensified, morphing into a mesmerizing spiral of black and white. Like something she had seen in a 1960s movie or two, a hypnotic vortex that seemed to consume her entire being.